Awesome. Good evening, everyone. Oops, I've just realized my bathroom door is open. Close my door. Perfect. That's better. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to My English School webinar for levels 1 to 3. 1 to 3. Welcome. My name is David. I am from South London, and now I live in Milan. I have lived in Milan for 2 years, almost 2 years, and I teach at the My English School in Viale Montenero. So that is me. A little introduction. Please say hi in the chat on this side, as I wrote. And please say hi in the chat. Tell us where you are from. But in case you do not know, there is a small delay in the chat. So sometimes we need to wait maybe 30 seconds or 1 minute to see your reply. But perfect. Yes, my name is David and I am from London. So you have a very British, very traditional British, not traditional, very typical British accent tonight. Cool. Perfect. So happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. I hope you are well. I hope you are healthy. I hope you are staying safe inside. And I hope you are working at the moment. I hope you can still continue your job from home, maybe smart working. Or if you are an essential worker, thank you very much for your hard work. Thank you very much. Today, the weather was very nice in Milan. It was very warm. We had blue skies and it was very sunny. So I went to the pharmacy today to buy some medicine for my allergies. I get very bad allergies to the plants, especially now it is spring. The weather is good, but my allergies are bad. So I went to the supermarket for some medicine. Cool. If you have any plans for the weekend, it would be very nice. So if you have plans, please tell us. I am reading this weekend. I am reading a autobiography of one of my favorite celebrities, Over the Top by Jonathan Van Ness. It's a very good book. I am almost finished with the book, but that's my plan for the weekend. Also cooking. Maybe I will cook a lasagna. I like to make lasagna on a Sunday, usually. But cool. Remember, guys, write in the chat on this side. Tell us where you're from, what you do, what you're doing at the moment. I can see that people are watching. So yeah, tell us about you. But cool. Today, though, as you can see in the title, today is all about describing a city. So, as I said before, I am from London. I'm British. I'm from London. So I will describe London. I will also describe my my specific area of London, my hometown in the south of London called Kingston. It's inside London, but technically is a different town. Or we can also say a London borough. I will write that in the chat. London borough, which means a district of London. District of London. Perfect. If I can spell properly, London. Awesome. So yeah, a London borough is a district of London. Sometimes we say it is a town, a small town inside the city, but it's a borough of London. Also, you guys can tell me about your hometown, where you are from, what there is in your town, your city, etc., as we go through the presentation. Perfect. But as I said, so I'll describe London, I will describe Kingston, the London borough, but now I live in Milan. So I will probably mostly describe Milan because that is where I live now. It's where I currently live. Awesome. Perfect. We've got Alessandra watching from Padova. Nice to meet you, Alessandra. Welcome to the chat. Good. It's nice to have someone interactive in the chat. So thank you for coming. So, describing a city. Today, in this focus activity, describing cities, there is, there are, is there, are there, and negative forms. Cool. So today, as we said, we're describing cities, London, Kingston, Milan. Alessandro, you can describe Padova or some other place, maybe. We will use there is, there are, to say what is in a city, what your city has. We say there is, there are. And here we will be practicing our question structures. Is there? Are there? So remember, for questions, we reverse our subject and our object. There is, for a normal statement, there is, and then we reverse it, is there, is there. Perfect. And then also the negative forms, because maybe your city doesn't have everything. We will also practice negative forms. Perfect. So here we have some vocabulary to start. I will make the screen bigger so you can see the pictures more easily. Here. So, or actually, this is easier. Match the word with the picture. Park, train station, university, hospital, museum, castle, and zoo. So we need to match that A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Park, train station, university, hospital, museum, castle, zoo. So Alessandra and anyone else watching, write in the chat, tell us the answers to this. Match the verb, match the word to the picture. Perfect. So you guys have started writing in the chat. Silvana, good evening and welcome, Silvana. You've written, I'm Silvana, I'm from Rieti in Lazio. Ah, very nice. The same region as Rome, I think. I've been to Rome, but I don't remember Lazio. I think Rome is in Lazio. Tell me if I'm wrong. And Alessandro, there is a famous place, Prato della Valle. Ah, in Padua, a famous place in Padua. Perfect. Perfect. My geography of Italy is correct. Rome is in Lazio. So is Rieti near Rome? Is Rieti near Rome? But I'm born in Monza near Milan. Ah, perfect. I have been to Monza. I like Monza. It's a very beautiful place. I sometimes go through Monza when I visit Como, Lake Como. Padua. Perfect, Alessandro. Padua, oh, third person. Padua has a little historic center. Perfect. Cool. But guys, let's start matching the nouns to the pictures. We have park, train station, university, hospital, museum, castle, and zoo. Monza Villa Reale. I don't know what I mean by that. I don't understand Monza Villa Reale. But tell me, A, here, what is A? This one. So A is train station, of course. Here you can see the train, and this is the train station platform. So in England, we call it the platform. When you need to go to the specific location for your train, we call it the platform. London has a lot of train stations, and it has one of the busiest train stations in Europe called Clapham Junction. Clapham Junction. This is a very big train station. How many platforms does it have? It has 17 platforms. 17 platforms. Clapham Junction train station in London, one of the busiest in Europe. Perfect. Ah, Alfredo, welcome. Welcome, Alfredo. I have seen you before on previous webinars, so welcome. Nice to see you. So B, what is B? I need to match the noun to the picture. And what is B? Alfredo, Silvana, Alessandro, what is B in the slides here? Perfect, Alfredo, thank you. B is university. B is university. London has many universities. I will just Google now. How many universities are there in London? 48. 48. There are 48 universities in London. It's a very big city. Just write that in the chat. There are 48 universities in London. Crazy, crazy. Silvana, I'm in Rieti for 2 years together with my partner. He lives here. Ah, that's very nice. Very nice. Perfect. Yeah, careful of your spelling there, Alfredo. The Y becomes an I in a plural, just like here. 48 universities in London. Alfredo, perfect. You've answered. C is a museum. Wonderful. Museum. Perfect, Silvana. I understood the typing error. Typing error. We call it a typo. When you put something wrong on a keyboard, we call it a typing. A typo, because the verb to type. Typing error. Wonderful, wonderful. But C, perfect, is museums. Museums, how many museums are in London? Oh, we have many. We have a science museum. We have a war museum. We have many history museums. We have a transport museum. In total, on Google, I just searched, it says there are 170 museums. 170 museums in London. Perfect. There are 170 museums in London. And next one, D. What is D? Where's Alessandro? Where's Alessandro gone? Silvana, Alfredo, Alessandro, what is D? With this animal here. What is D? Perfect. Alessandro, Alfredo, perfect. D is zoo. Perfect. D is zoo. Olga, hey. Thanks for joining us. Welcome. Perfect, Silvana. I was born in Monza. I left everything because in Rieti, I left everything to move to Rieti, near Rome. Perfect. Like me, you relocated. I relocated from London to Milan. I left everything in London and I came to Milan. Perfect. But yes, letter D is zoo, and there is a zoo in London as well. Very, very famous, I believe. For me, it is famous, but I am from London. London Zoo. It's called. Very typical, very easy name. Not much imagination. London Zoo. Perfect. E. What is E? I'll make the picture bigger for you. What is E? Perfect, Alessandro. Yes. E is hospital. Good job. E is hospital. Again, I will research how many hospitals are there in London. Hopefully there is many at the moment because it's a very important time to have hospitals. But there are 200. There are 296. 296 hospitals in London. Crazy. So many. There are 296 hospitals in London. Wow. Very, very helpful at the moment. And they just created another hospital called the Nightingale Hospital for the current situation, which is good. Good London. Next one then, F. What is F? Alfredo, in Rome, there are many hospitals. Yeah, good. I hope so. I hope so. Rome is well equipped. Well equipped. What is F? Yes, in Rome, there are the most important universities and hospitals. Yes, usually in the capital city, we call it the capital city. So London is the capital of England. Rome is the capital of Italy. The capital city usually has the most important universities and hospitals. Perfect. And yes, Alfredo, F is castle. Perfect. F is castle. Wonderful. London has some castles. London has some castles. There are 10 castles in London. 10 castles. One, the most famous, probably. Alessandro, I think Disney's castle. I think of Disney's castle. Yeah, this looks like Disney. This looks very Germanic as well, actually. But yeah, also very Disney, very typical of a castle. Yes, Silvana, also in Milan, there are castles. The most famous castle in London is the Tower of London. The Tower of London. This is a castle, but actually it is also a prison to keep criminals. When people do something illegal, we take prisoners there. Modern day, now, not so much. In the past, yes, there was lots of prisoners and it was famous for being a prison and a castle together. Cool, and so the final one, very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. I don't need to ask this question. G is, of course, a park. A park. London has many parks. The most famous, I think, probably Hyde Park, and St. James's Park outside Buckingham Palace. Also Green Park outside Buckingham Palace. 3 very famous parks. Oh, 4, Regent's Park. Regent's Park. This is where you have London Zoo. London Zoo is in Regent's Park. So that is Hyde Park, St. James's Park, Green Park, and London Zoo. 4 very famous parks in London. But awesome. Now is your opportunity to tell me what is in your city. What is in your city? So, Silvana, you can tell me about Rome, or you can tell me about Monza. Oh, sorry, Rieti. You live in Rieti, near Rome, or Monza, where you are from. Alfredo, you told me you are from Rome. You can tell us about Rome. Alessandro from Padova, you can tell us about Padova. And Olga, you live in Milan now. So tell us, what is there in Rome? Sorry, in Milan. You live in Milan. What is there in Milan? Perfect. Alfredo says, in Rome, there are many parks. Perfect. Like London, there are many parks. Silvana, Mona has the largest park in Europe. Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't know this. Is it because it is a national park? Does it have the mountains, the Alpine mountains? The largest park in Europe. Good superlative there. Very, very good. Not just large, but the largest, the number one. And now you will tell us about Rieti. Perfect. Perfect. So, Alessandro, tell us about Parva. Olga, tell us about Milan or your hometown. I don't remember your hometown. I'm very sorry. But tell us, what is there? Is there a train station? Is there a university, a museum, a zoo, a hospital, a castle, a park? Alfredo, Villa Ada, Gianicolo, Villa Torino. Cool. Villas? Are these like castle type villas? I don't know. Alfredo, can you explain? What do you mean? What do you mean? Or are these the parks you were talking about? I don't know. Rome is very famous for its monuments. There's a lot in Rome for monuments. Tourists, it's amazing for tourists. I'll put this on full screen so you can see the language perfectly. Ah, Alfredo, these are the parks. Olga thinking, why do I know the number of museums and hospitals? Because I am using Google, Olga, because I'm using Google. I have it open as a second window so that I can research and give you accurate information. But yeah, there are many, many hospitals and many, many museums in London. Cool. Silvana, the park is in the center of the city. But how is that possible if it's the biggest park? That's amazing. Wow. Oh, Alfredo, you have to go. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. No worries. Thanks for coming. It was good to see you. Cool. We still have another 20 minutes. So let's go. Let's continue. Let's practice the negative now. What isn't there in your city? What isn't there in your city? So if I talk about Kingston, Silvana, you're in Rieti because you can't come to Lombardy. I'm sorry, but you are with your partner, I hope. So you are not in quarantine alone. I hope, fingers crossed, fingers crossed. Cool. But tell me, what isn't there in your city? So if I talk about my hometown, Kingston, the London borough of Kingston, the region of London, there is a train station. There is a university. There isn't a museum. There isn't a museum. There isn't a museum as a negative, unfortunately. However, Kingston does have lots of history because there are ancient Roman ruins in Kingston. Ancient Roman ruins. So maybe they can make a museum talking about the history of Kingston. Also, Kingston has the name Kingston because it means King's Town. King's Town. Because it is the town in history, a long time ago, when people or royalty were coronated to give the crown to the king or the queen. This happened in Kingston, my hometown. So we have lots of history. Maybe they need to make a museum in this city, in this town. Cool. Cool. Silvana, my parents are in Lombardy. Okay, perfect. Cool. Are they together? Hopefully, of course. But you are with your partner, so you are not alone in quarantine, I believe. Ah, perfect. There is Monza Cathedral with its museum. Its museum for the object possessive. Object possessive with its museum. But cool, very nice. Thinking about Kingston, a zoo? No, Kingston doesn't have a zoo. There isn't a zoo in Kingston, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I love animals, and when I was young, I loved London Zoo, but it was a very, very long way from where I lived in South London, in Kingston, unfortunately. Next one is a hospital. Yes, Kingston has a hospital. Kingston has a hospital. I was born in Kingston Hospital. It's my hospital. Castle. Is there a castle in Kingston? There isn't a castle in Kingston. There isn't a castle in Kingston, but there is a palace. There is a palace, a very famous palace called Hampton Court Palace. And this is where the King Henry VIII lived. This was near where I live. Hampton Court Palace. Very, very famous in Kingston in South London. Oops. Perfect. You can see there, that's Hampton, Hampton Court Palace. Cool. Inside of there's a museum. Perfect. So inside the cathedral, there's a museum. Awesome. That's interesting. That's interesting. This is common in Italy, I believe, because also there is a museum for Duomo in Milan. There is also a museum for the cathedral in Palermo. And obviously St. Peter's has a museum in the Vatican. Cool. There's no castle in Monza. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Castles are awesome. This looks like a castle, but is actually a palace. And this belongs to the Queen of England, Queen Elizabeth. This is her palace. Cool. And parks in Kingston, there is a park, a very, very big park called Richmond Park. Richmond Park, and it is 10 miles in circumference. So to go around Richmond Park is 10 miles. It's a very, very big park. Miles in kilometers, I don't know. Let's see. Miles in kilometers. So we can swap this, put 10 miles is 16 kilometers. So the park in Kingston is 16 kilometers all the way around. And when I was young, when I was at school, we used to walk around this park 10 kilometers once per year. Once per year, we walked around this park. But tell me, guys, what isn't there in your town or city? What is there and what isn't there? Silvana, you just told me there is a museum, there isn't a castle. Make sure we're using the language that we target here. There isn't a castle in Monza. Villa Reale, residence of the king. Cool. Very nice. Very nice. So can you use there is and there isn't for these sentences? Olga, tell us. And other people watching, Alessandro, tell us about Rome. There's many things to say about Rome. Just waiting for your comments to come through. Write in the chat, what isn't there? What is there in your city or town? And then after this, similar to Versailles. Ooh, very nice. So kind of like a villa or a chateau is the French name for a castle. A chateau. Maybe in English we call it a palace, as I showed you before, Hampton Court Palace, like this. This is the back of Hampton Court, and then the front of Hampton Court is this. This is very, very old. This was built in the Tudor times for Henry VIII, maybe 1500, the year 1500. And then later, on the back of the building, they put this. Very big, very square, very rectangular. Perhaps it is Georgian. I think it's more modern than the front. Perfect. But tell us, what is there, what isn't there in your town? And while you are typing, we can move on to the next part. So here, this is asking questions. Asking questions. So remember, in English, we use inversion for questions. So it becomes, there is a castle. There is a castle. To make a question, is there a castle? Is there a castle? Yeah. So I will type this for you. There is affirmative, but is there is question. A question. So guys, ask me questions and I will ask you questions of what there is and what there isn't in your hometown or in your city. So start writing in the chat, ask me questions, and we can use this language here, or if you prefer, we can think of more places a town or a city has. So you can think a stadium, a school, a supermarket, a swimming pool, other things. Tell me, what is there, what isn't there? And ask me questions. A shopping center, maybe, for number 5. Perfect. So start typing. Olga, very good question. Is there a Harry Potter house in London? So Harry Potter is very English, of course, is very English. But actually, in the book, Harry doesn't visit London unless he goes to Diagon Alley. Diagon Alley, and I will find you now the inspiration for Diagon Alley, because there is a specific place that inspired J.K. Rowling to create Diagon Alley, and this is in London. This is a short street of shops, and this is what J.K. Rowling used to imagine Diagon Alley. Short little shops like this. But this looks much more realistic than Diagon Alley, much more realistic. But very nice still, very small, very cute, very old. There was a picture with snow before this one. Looks very, very nice. Looks very, very magical, almost. It's a very good question, Olga. I like it. There isn't a Harry Potter house, but there is almost Diagon Alley. Also in London, we have the Harry Potter Studios. The Harry Potter Studios. Studios. And I worked here in the past. And in here, you can see Harry Potter's house. You can see things like Diagon Alley. You can see Hogwarts Castle. Perfect. Silvana. In Monza, there is a park, train station, shopping center, university, hospitals. There isn't a zoo and castles. Oh, at the end there, careful, Olga. For a negative, we say there isn't a zoo or a castle. There isn't a zoo or a castle. Perfect. Perfect. Oh, we skipped one. Here, tell your partner. So this is the same information. In my city, there are. Perfect. Are there zoos in New York? So we will talk about this in a second. Silvana, you said, while in Rieti there are castles, but not a train station. Cool. So there is a, park and train station, but there isn't a zoo or a castle. We use or for the negative. We use or for, oh, I realize you can't see me. We use or for the negative, okay? Perfect. Good self-correction here, aren't. So this was my correction. My question, not a correction. You did it perfectly. But this is my question. When do we use aren't? Aren't is for plurals. So in London, there are, positive, there are universities. There are universities. In Monza, there aren't any zoos. Cool. So this is YouTube rejected your comment. This usually means they think it's try changing it a bit. Strange, didn't like my comment. There aren't any zoos. In Monza, there aren't any zoos. I don't know why, but YouTube is not letting me write in the chat for some reason. I will take a screenshot of this as feedback, but for some reason, it's not letting me write in the chat. But perfect, Olga, good question. Did you wear a uniform when you worked there, like the movie? I wish I wore a uniform, but no, I didn't. Not like the movie. I worked specifically with the animals. So I didn't work for the studios. I worked for the company training animals for the film. And so I visited with the animals for a couple of weeks, and I wore a different uniform that said Harry Potter Studios Animal Team. So the department in the Ministry for Magic, the magical government, was care of magical creatures, and that's me. That was me for a couple of weeks. My uniform was just a black t-shirt, unfortunately. I really wanted a uniform like school, like the movie, but unfortunately, no. Cool, cool. So yeah, here we're talking about the negatives, positives and negatives. With an owl, yes, Olga, yes, I worked with an owl. I worked specifically with the owl that was Hedwig in the films. I worked with the owl that was Hedwig in the films. His name was Elmo. He was 20 years old, 20 years old when we were at the studios. And yeah, he was one of 6 owls that worked at the studios, that worked on the film. And then I worked at the studios with him. Yeah, because I worked with the animals on that were for the films. Also, when we visited, we had the owls for the other parts of the film. So Ron's owl, in English, he was called Errol. I don't know if the name is different in Italian, but his name was Errol, the owl. He was there. Also, the cat, Hermione's cat, the friend of Ron and Harry, Hermione, her cat called Crookshanks. He was also there. It was good fun. It's good fun. But cool. Back to describing a city for the last minute. Ask your partner what each city has, use the plural form, and practice negatives too. So in questions and negatives, we can use either singular or plural. Yeah, we can ask, is there a zoo in London? Or we can ask, are there zoos in London? We can also use the plural. Yeah. And you can answer positively, yes, there is a zoo in London. Are there any zoos in Monza? Are there any zoos in Monza? Before, Silvana said, no, there aren't any zoos in Monza. There aren't any zoos in Monza. Silvana, you've asked, what do I do in Milan? I'm an English teacher. I'm an English teacher for my English school, and I moved to Milan because my boyfriend is Italian and he got a new job in a university in Milan. So when he said he got the job in Milan, I decided, okay, I will teach English in Milan, and I love it. It's my favorite job. It's a lot of fun. But cool. Cool. We have reached 10 to 7. So guys, I'm sorry, we need to finish here. Thank you so much for your cooperation today. It made this webinar much more fun, much more interactive. And I talked a lot about my life, actually, not just London, but perfect. Thank you very much, guys. We'll finish there. I'll speak to you soon.